It's Chevy Chasers. I'm Benjamin Vigeant, and you're not.
I'm Jess Morrissette, and you're not.
This is Chevy Chasers, the comprehensive all Chevy Chase podcast, where we're going through the entire Chevy Chase oeuvre. We're watching all of Community. We're watching all of SNL that the first season and his couple guest spots. We're watching all of the Chevy Chase show and, of course, all of his films.
Yes, and I'm very excited for what we're talking about tonight because we are jumping into a film that I loved as a kid, and we'll talk more about that as we go forward. We're going to be talking about the 1991 smash hit, Nothing But Trouble.
Directed and written by Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, man. But, you know, Ben, before we jump into that,
right.
I think it's time for a little bit of Weekend Update. So, Ben, what were you doing last weekend?
Those of you who are longtime listeners of Chevy Chasers know that I have been planning a big move. This is the first podcast that I'm recording from my brand new home. So this weekend was almost entirely packing. And I had this. Has this ever happened to you, Jess? Where like you're moving and like there's that transitory period where it's like you have like 2 or 3 days in the place that you're moving out of where everything's packed up. And so you kind of feel like you're in a hotel room in your soon to be former home. You know what I mean?
Yes, and it immediately begins like you no longer live there once you're in
Right.
that state. Like, yeah, you're in a place that is not your own anymore.
Yeah, like I'm just sitting there in my bedroom and it is just completely empty. Like there is a desk with nothing on it and a dresser that only has the next day's clothes in it and a bunch of boxes. And that was all it was. And I was just sitting there and I'm just like, this is so eerie. I lived in that apartment for 7 years. Which included 2020. So like I spent
like 12 years.
Yeah. And now like and so it's like I got to know every inch of that apartment extremely well. And that was the first place as a grown up that I lived all by myself. Sans roommates. So that was, it was sad, but you know what? I don't want to talk a little bit out of Weekend Update about weekdays, but
Mm.
I'm starting to already get the feeling just a couple days living in my new home that I kind of think I might like this new neighborhood I'm in a little bit more.
Now,
It's
Ben,
got
you
a
sent
nice
me a
vibe.
photo of a torta that you
Yes.
acquired in this new neighborhood, and already that looks pretty
Berea.
good. Yeah. Oh, it was Berea.
On a previous episode, we spoke with Chevy Chase expert Francisco Gonzalez, and they have Cubans at this restaurant, and I am so tempted, to like we were as you may recall, we discussed Cubans in places other than Miami, and I assume Cuba, and I'm so tempted to get one, take a photo, and then Goofus and Gallant send it over to him. Be like, hey, I went to this place. It's a pretty good it's a pretty good place for sandwiches. They have a Cuban on the menu. Could you please tell me what's wrong with this picture? Because I seem to be having a good time.
Well, you never can tell. It could be like one of these things like where you find out that like the fortune cookie was invented in San Francisco or something,
Right.
and we find out that like Cubanos are from Columbus, Ohio, or something like that. It's
Yeah,
hard to
that's
say,
they were originally called
the Buckeye sandwich.
Columbos. But anyway, Jess, how about you tell me about your weekend update?
My weekend, well, Ben, it's springtime as we record this, of
Right.
course. Who knows what time of year it'll be by the time it comes out. But that means it is the beginning of softball season, and I am full on in softball mode. I am, which is to say, I'm watching my daughter's team practice for their upcoming softball season. And that's kind of consuming all of my life right now. They've been doing like 7 to 9 p.m. practices on school nights, which I can't function like that. That's no way for me to live. She's fine. She's got boundless energy. For
Yeah.
me, that's too much. But what's really fascinating me right now about this new season is, first of all, her team is named the Base Bandits. Which, what do we think of that as a name, Ben?
I think that's an excellent name. The Base Bandits. That's fun.
This was put to a vote for the team, and
What was the runner up? Yeah.
the runner up. Now, I personally, I like the runner up. The Knockouts.
I think I like the Base Bandits a little
You
bit
like the
more.
Base Bandits?
I think
Well,
I
let
would
me
have
then.
voted because the Knockouts is good, but I think it's a little too obvious. Base Bandits is something you don't hear every day. I can't think of
Base
like
Bandits
a
sounds like a super mega baseball team at
yeah.
some level, which I like
That's why
that
I love
energy.
it. Yeah.
No. Here's the weird thing to me. So they're the Base Bandits. The other team from our town, the other little league team, who I guess will be their arch rivals as we move forward through this season, they are the Outlaw Outfielders.
That is
How do,
also like a super mega baseball.
it really is. Like,
Yeah.
what's their team? Their team specialty is obviously fielding, right? Fielding speed or something like that.
Yeah,
But
is it true that there's each team is one category? Is your daughter's team like the well-rounded? Like,
no, they're clearly they're base stealers. They're all
okay,
running.
yeah.
Yeah, their team is all maxed out in range speed. There'll be a hitting team and
Mhm.
a pitching team. But yeah, I mean, what bothers me about the outlaw outfielders is that just you know, quantitatively speaking, most of them are infielders.
Mm.
I mean, that's just how baseball works. Like 6 out of
Well, yeah,
9.
but what about softball? How does that work?
That's true. Well, girl baseball or softball, as we call it. Yeah, I mean, basically the same. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at 6 infielders, 3 outfielders. So, I mean, am I to believe these are outfielders who are just occupying an infield position at the moment? I don't know what to make of it.
I was so thrilled. Um, the day of the move, I couldn't really sleep. I woke up early that morning, as you do,
Mm-hmm.
before like a big day, and I woke up at 5 and I couldn't fall back asleep, and I look over at my phone and I see that a Cubs game had just started
Oh yeah,
because
this is the Cubs game in Japan, right?
they had a game on Tuesday and Wednesday in Tokyo against the
Yeah.
Dodgers. Um and like so it turned out to be like this remarkable little treat. Like it's like I was having difficulty sleeping and I wake up at 5 a.m. and then I like turn on the radio and I listen to Cubs baseball with this normal announcers, and then I thought, like, you know what, I think I could fuck with morning baseball.
Oh man, morning baseball.
Like, because it's like you're making a cup of coffee, you're getting your breakfast ready, and then you have the radio on and it's playing baseball. And I was like, this is actually a very cozy morning thing.
I bet it is. It feels like the perfect morning sport. Like I don't want to see football
Yeah,
first thing in the morning, but no, I
baseball's
mean
so
you
nice and slow and gentle. It's a perfect morning game.
and Ben, you know who was in attendance at those Tokyo games?
Who is in attendance?
Chevy Chase's Caddyshack co-star Bill Murray was in the stands
He
for those games.
was?
He was. He was seen beside Jack White of the White
That's
Stripes.
that's great. Well,
Yeah.
Bill must have been pretty disappointed because the Cubs lost both
Uh,
games. I mean, Otani is undeniable.
yeah. I think he's a Fortnite skin now. So, I mean,
Yeah.
he's unstoppable.
So,
I guess we
uh,
can't delay it much longer, can we?
we really can't. We have to get into it. Today, we are going to continue our adventure through the Chevy Chase's filmography when we discuss Nothing But Trouble, a film directed by Dan Aykroyd.
And written by Dan Aykroyd, I believe, right?
I believe so, yeah. And I think Peter Aykroyd I
Yeah,
saw his name in the credits.
I believe so.
I'm gonna just lay my cards on the table here. This isn't really a surprise because I think this is kind of well known. This movie is terrible.
It's the pits. I
it
mean, it really
yeah.
is. I mean, Ben, was this your first time watching it?
No, this was the second time
Second time.
watching it, and I actually hated it more this time. I like I was kind of intrigued
hmm
by it the first time. I gave it a little extra credit. I was just like, oh, this is kind of kooky and weird. And uh oh, it's got all these, like, it has a lot of ideas, it's just that they're bad.
So many ideas. This is more ideas per minute than your average Hollywood movie.
And but this time watching it, maybe because there wasn't the novelty of just constantly being surprised when something new and inexplicable
Yeah,
happens. This time I was just like, oh yeah, no, it's this fucking scene. Oh, it's this
yeah,
fucking.
no. It, you know, I've seen this one several times. As a kid, I kind of loved this movie for some
I
reason. That's
think I would
almost
have
more
liked.
upsetting to me.
I think I
Yeah,
would. I think I would have liked this
yeah. Like I was
because
14. I saw this in the theater,
yeah,
and then I think I rented it multiple times to try to really just get as much nothing but trouble as I could. And it's hard for me to imagine what 14-year-old Jess saw in this. I've really tried to think about this a lot over the past
I
few days. I have some ideas.
I have ideas too because I was thinking about this within a certain it is because a lot of it is fully unique in a lot of ways. It's a lot of just like completely bananas ideas from Dan Aykroyd. Um, but then also it is of a piece of a lot of 90s films that are all about like houses full of gizmos. Like that's
Yeah.
a late 80s to early 90s thing. Like it's like you think about Pee-wee's Big Adventure and you think about the Addams Family and you
hmm
think about I mean, it's not entirely like this, but like Toys, like these movies that have this really overwrought production design.
Yeah, gizmos and contraptions and yeah, just yeah. And I think that is what appealed to me as a kid.
And that's what I would have liked as a
Yeah,
kid too, because I
it's
loved Toys.
yeah,
And Toys is not a good movie either.
no.
Um,
But I mean, like booby traps and slides and wild mechanical contraptions and things like that. Like all 14-year-old kids, that was fascinating to me. And this movie definitely serves those up. And this serves up a whole bunch of other stuff all around it that I'm not sure what my 14-year-old brain made of. But
yeah, when you were 14, you were like, "This movie serves." Now
it ate and left no crumbs, Ben.
this movie is sickening. Now. uh,
That's exactly why I said when I was 14.
All right, so let's begin. The movie starts, and they New York the hell out of us.
Oh
They
man, they
let
do.
us know. I mean, again, this is a real. This is a real, like, kind of. You can't make a movie from the 80s, 90s, and not too much of the 2000s. In fact, I would say very little of the 2000s without establishing the hell out of New York City by egregiously putting the Twin Towers in every possible shot.
Absolutely important. I would not have known where this was set otherwise. Nothing
And
about these yuppie characters scream New York if I hadn't seen those establishing shots.
and what's really funny to me about that is, like I say, like it's like, wow, they're really. But you know what? When I was a kid, I grew up outside of New York. When I was a kid, that was like that to me. That was the most identifiable icon of New York. Maybe even more so than the Statue of Liberty, because it was you could see it almost like all over the place if you're driving around the island, and it was like just very identifiable.
Yeah.
Two very tall buildings that look exactly the same. It's like
Yes.
I'd know that anywhere. Anyway, so like you see the bridges and blah blah blah. We get Chevy, of course, he's in his rightful place. He's top build. Then we have John Candy, second build, and you know, and I'm pretty sure that Chevy has given interviews where he's just said this outright. Not a film that he particularly was fond of, and you could tell in his whole performance in this film he is checked out.
Yes.
And I, there are a lot of times where I wouldn't like where I would blame him, but this time I wouldn't. And then second second credit, and God bless this man because he puts so much into it. I
Yes.
think he really really puts a lot of effort into it. It's John Candy.
Best performance in the film, I think, hands down. Doing some real human being acting as
Yes,
Dennis, the
yeah,
the local constable.
yeah, like he's really, and they like I don't like John. Like John Candy had a gear in him that Chevy absolutely doesn't, which is to say that John Candy was always playing a lot of guys that were jerks, but you loved him. But like where like John Candy was kind of more on the lovable side, where Chevy was on the side of like you love him because he's a jerk, right? Like
Right.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, yeah.
Because even like Clark Griswold is a bit of a jerk. Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about this before. I mean, that's like a common through line, whether he's supposed to be a likable jerk or an unlikable jerk. It's just sort of, on a scale. It's, I mean, Fletch is sort of a jerk,
Hmm.
and Pierce Hawthorne is like the full on jerkification of
Yeah.
Chevy Chase, where now he's just a flat out villain at some level.
And then third credit, the great Demi Moore, which I think this is supremely early in her career. Is that right? I do not
I mean,
recall,
what
but
she'd done, like she was in St. Elmo's Fire back in
mhm,
the 80s. Would this have been? This is pre GI Jane, I'm thinking, if I recall. But
I think
Demi
so.
Moore's fine in it. She isn't asked to do a lot.
She gets to play a girl.
Yeah, that's right. She's the
And
girl one.
they like it, it makes an attempt to kind of make her cool, but it doesn't give her anything to do.
No,
Like it just kind of gives her like these like signifiers of intelligence and savviness. Um, but like it's such a thankless role that she has. It's a shame.
it almost feels like it should have been built up at the end, not to skip to the conclusion, but like rather than him saving her at the end, had she been the one to somehow save him from certain doom, maybe
Seems
you
like an
retroactively make
obvious
her. Yeah,
layup given
yeah,
how they present her character
right,
as a
right,
like because in the beginning of the film she is the smart competent person, and she's surrounded by all these nutcases. Like it's a pretty standard comedy formula to do that, to have one
this movie has
like
no interest in standard comedy formulas and
yeah.
standard storytelling formulas, character arcs, any of those sorts of things. they're out the window
Like,
with this movie.
like she could be like a Liz Lemon in that like she's like funny herself, but she's like the person that's surrounded like by all these, you know, bizarre characters. In any case, they didn't do that. So anyway, so we come to Chevy is getting, this is Chris, we find out is getting out of a cab, and this is his intro. I've got a clip right here.
110 blocks in under 15 minutes. Not bad for a one-eyed Russian immigrant. Somebody throwing a party?
You are, sir.
You know, that's his intro. He here's here's the thing about this movie is that it has a lot of things that are written as jokes. They're just not funny.
Right. And that one's barely even delivered in the cadence of a joke because he has a giant cigar in his mouth, which is affecting his delivery of it somewhat. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I mean, it establishes within seconds, hey, this guy's a tremendous asshole. Which normally in a movie, the thinking would be he learns his lesson and becomes less of an asshole. But
Well,
I'm not
he,
even sure that happens.
I mean, we'll get to what happens at the end. So anyway, we get him and his cab driver, or not the cab driver, his like the doorman that he's buddies
Yes.
with, that also like, you know, his guy that works at the building that's kind of his assistant. We
Someone there
get
for him to like flip a coin to as a tip or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
They back and forth some exposition. We discover that he is Chris Thorne, and you know, much like today, he's making a killing with a popular newsletter. Just for those of you younger listeners, it's kind of like a Substack. And so he has a big party tonight in his penthouse apartment, and this is when we first see these two deeply obnoxious characters, the quote unquote Brazilianaires.
Wow. Yeah. The
Now,
Brazilian heirs.
now, Jess, was this like a stereotype that existed in the '90s?
Of wealthy brothers and like wealthy siblings
Or no, just like
from
obnoxious rich Brazilians?
yeah,
Like, big,
obnoxious rich Brazilians that seem like maybe they're also a couple and not just siblings, but it's hard to tell it. No, I don't think this was. I don't think a lot of people are just like, oh, all these wealthy Brazilians are coming in and like taking over high society in New York City. I don't think so. I mean,
it
granted, I wasn't part of high society yet
it
myself.
it feels like maybe it was written initially as maybe like that they would be like a Japanese couple, which would be
Okay.
like, you know, like an early '90s, late '80s thing.
Yeah, that would
And
be
then they were,
closer.
and then they would be, and then they were like, oh, that's a pretty obvious joke. Let's make them Brazilian because
Mhm.
then we could do silly voices
Yeah.
and not.
Who knows? Maybe it exists entirely because Brazilian air is kind of a fun word to say.
There's a lot of that in this movie where it's just like maybe that would be fun,
Yeah,
and
maybe
then
Dan
it's
Aykroyd
not.
just liked the way that sounded, and it's just like that's good enough to create two characters who really have almost no bearing on the plot
No,
whatsoever.
no,
Don't need to be
they
there.
don't.
They're
Like,
comic relief here at the beginning, just by
yeah.
being very obnoxious at some
So,
level.
these two Brazilianaires, we'll get their name later. They get on an elevator ahead of him. He kind of is like, "Oh, I'll take the next one." He ignores them, and then we see uh uh Demi Moore, Diane, come on. She's recently moved into this building. She has two dogs, and you know, Chris Chevy. He's so immediately. He's like, "Wow, this is young Demi Moore. Ooh la la."
Yeah, yeah.
He makes sure to get into the elevator with her, and she's kind of emotionally preoccupied. So and starts crying and gives him hands him everything that she's holding on to while she starts crying. like I think like she sees some sort of document or something like from her mail
Mm.
or something. This has another 90s thing, which is it has this inscrutable business plot.
It
Um,
does. Like I was never quite sure. Like I almost went back and rewatched the beginning of this because I never quite understood like what the inciting incident to get them on this road trip they're about to go on was. Like they're going to Atlantic City. She needs to go there because
there's something like with her husband or her ex-husband, and he's like bought some property
and
and
she's going to tell him off,
yeah, like and it's a legal thing. And
but she has no way
he's
to
his
get to
lawyer.
Atlantic City.
And yeah, there's no way to get to Atlantic City from New York City. There's just no way if you don't have a car, you're just stuck. And
It's so
like,
weird. Like I was just puzzling over this. Like, gosh, how hard would it have been to like just throw in some sort of justification why these two strangers end up on a road trip together? And
it's
they just hand wave that away. It's like throw them in a car with some Brazilianaires. We got to get
well,
to the
the
wacky part of the
Brazilian
movie.
airs actually they do serve a purpose, and we'll get there in the plot.
Yes.
So anyway, before she rushes off crying to her apartment, Chris invites her to his big soiree, which we don't actually ever get that much information about either. Again, there's like so we go to the party and she's completely changed and now is in like a cocktail attire. And again, there's this like we get more exposition about this weird business deal. Like he knows about it because he's knowledgeable of Wall Street because of his popular Substack and blah 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 blah. And then she's like, let's go to and she's a high powered lawyer of some kind. And so she needs to get to Atlantic City. She wants to again, this is a thing that I thought would pay off in some sort of way, but it doesn't. There's a lot of this. It feels like this is like a first draft.
Yes. And you hear about like Dan Aykroyd's first draft of Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters being 500,000 pages.
Yeah, that's
Like,
right. And I was thinking about that this whole movie. Like they're just like threads that don't get followed up on that you wonder if it's like, wow, is that just like 70 pages that they cut from a script at some point?
it
Or
feels like this is like, and this isn't an original observation from me. I've heard other people say this. It's like, well, well, Dan, you gave us Ghostbusters, so here you go. Like, like and well they made sure that he
yeah,
would never get
yeah.
this.
We love Danny. But yeah.
I love Danny. I love doing like a Lauren voice and then like calling everyone by like a cozy nickname. Oh,
Absolutely.
let's have Danny on. I'm giving him Jimmy Stewart. Oh, let's have Danny on. It would be
I mean,
so
really,
fun.
it's just like one step from a like Lauren a little bit like excited becomes Jimmy Stewart. I feel like very easily. Like if Lauren weren't so like laconic,
Mhm. So they have to get to Atlantic City by noon the next day. Like he volunteers to go and she's like, I'll drive, and he's like, no, I want to drive. Either this is a thing that is paying off, or it's a joke, or it's a thing about like, like, oh, women like men and women and he doesn't trust. Like, I don't know. It's very confusing to me.
Yeah, she like wants
Anyway,
to borrow his car. It's just like, hey, stranger, I met a few hours ago in an elevator. Can I just have your car to go to Atlantic City? And that's a little odd.
it's reasonable for him to be concerned about it because it is a very nice car, as we come to find out. I
Oh
mean, of
yeah,
course it would be because
did you know it was a Beamer? Did that did you
that never
notice that?
comes up. They don't mention it 500 times in the film. So they have this discussion about this trip, and then meanwhile, the two Brazilians, Fausto and Ronaldo, invite themselves. Now, this is one of the first. This is another thing where it's just like you gotta redraft this because this does not make sense that they would just be like, oh, we're going to invite ourselves to Atlantic City which
Brazilianaires
even
love
in
Atlantic City.
1991, like when Atlantic City was like a place that you would go, it's
Mhm.
not like if you're
Classy.
a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever, if you're someone that Bernie Sanders would talk about, you're not, unless like you're buying real estate there, you're not going to Atlantic City on a holiday, I don't think. You know,
Why
maybe
not send them to the Hamptons?
well, because, you know, the Hamptons, that's surrounded by lands that are sophisticated. And this
True.
film mostly takes place in New Jersey, question mark, though it's a very Pennsylvania coded New Jersey.
It is. I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's Pennsylvania by way of West Virginia, New
Yeah.
Jersey.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, so the next morning, Chris is looks pretty lousy. The Mike, that's the guy that works at the building, gets his car. He drives kind of nuts. Like on the way, did you notice this? He kind of drives nuts, and that was
Yeah.
another thing where it's like, oh, is that anything? And nothing happens. It's just that like he just drives the car in kind of a like erratic way up to it, and I'm just like, okay, well, this will have a payoff of some kind.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
No, it was just a reference to how nutty he looked in the movie Funny Farm when he was driving the lawnmower, the riding lawnmower. So I think that it was, yeah, I'm sure it was just a callback to that.
And he's like I don't know if the like, and also he's Irish, which again, like it just doesn't like. I mean, that's fine, I guess. You know, whatever. Like
Can I tell you what leapt out at me about this scene?
what?
And Ben, is this possible? Did you notice that his license plate, his custom
Oh,
plate,
yes, I did notice this.
did you notice it had an apostrophe in it?
I noticed that, but I didn't notice that.
Is that something that's possible? Like,
I
could
don't
you
think
get?
I mean, I don't drive a car, so
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wouldn't be here. I'm just wondering if, like, in
Yeah.
1991 New York, you could get his license plate is his last name Thorne
maybe
apostrophe S.
maybe they did that like you know how in a movie it will be 555 like a phone
Oh,
number.
that way
Maybe yeah
you know it's not a real license plate.
yeah no,
Or
that
maybe
doesn't.
like Chevy's characters went there with like a Sharpie and just like scribbled in a little apostrophe. That, yeah, I mean, that probably Dan Aykroyd had several pages of script explaining that, like where he talks about how he has a friend at the DMV that he bribed or something like that. But they just got cut before they could get to the final
so
draft.
so Chris tells Mike he can't go on this trip. He's too hungover. And then like you know what, I'm going back to bed. You tell Diane she could just have the car, and then when he turns around, Diane gets off the elevator and
Va ba va boom.
woozle wazzle, what a beautiful gal.
Yeah. Wearing all white as she does throughout the movie, alabaster skin, jet black hair. Who wouldn't drunk drive for a woman like that?
Well, he's not drunk. This
No,
is
he's just
hungover.
hungover.
This is hungover driving, which is legal, I believe. Now so he decides actually, and this is another little character detail that like does come up again a couple times, but like this is one of those things where I'm like, oh, are they going to like kind of set up her character in it like in a way? But listen.
Wow, what a beautiful Beamer.
Morning.
This is a vintage, what, 733i? 3.3 liter?
That's right.
Like they set her up again. They set her up as like, oh, maybe she's like a little bit of a gearhead.
Yeah.
And I think generally the context that makes sense, like that they use that in, is just that it's like, oh, it's sexy that she knows about cars. Like that's
Yeah.
about it. Like I don't think they do anything with it. I was just
Like,
like,
gosh,
oh,
it'd be so easy to do something with it. Where this heads, that could very easily be a plot thread you pick up and use in an interesting way. They chose not to.
yeah, I think it's just that it's like, oh, it's sexy that she knows about cars.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Beautiful, and she knows about guy stuff.
yeah. Oof. Anyway, the so they get into the car, and again there's a, I want to drive. No, I want to drive. And like because he only drives in the city, which already is just like nutso. But I mean, he is rich, but then he would have his own driver, whatever. Anyway, she's like, I drive regularly and you don't. And again, that doesn't really materially like the reason that he gets in trouble for driving later are unrelated to that he only drives in Manhattan. So just as he's about to leave, the Brazilian heirs see him and they force their way into the car. And there's that. Okay, so now they're driving down the New Jersey Turnpike. We get to see the skyline a couple more times. We also get to see that the Beamer has incredible computer technology.
Ben, it has some sort of like computerized mapping system in it.
I mean, that would have, if I saw that in 1991, I would have been very impressed.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's GPS at a time when, yeah, like car phones were still like almost miraculous when I would see one of those in a movie or something.
Well, and a car phone does show up in this movie. Of
It
course,
does,
it
but
also has a car phone.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, a primitive GPS system that is guiding them down the Jersey Turnpike toward Atlantic City until
Yeah.
Brazilianaires have a great idea.
Yeah. So, they have this brilliant idea. They're like, we want to take a picnic in the countryside. You two invited yourself. You do not get to make calls. Like, but anyway, Diane for some reason is just like, all right, fine. Let's. I found on the incredible GPS, like this side road we can take that will get us back on the turnpike and towards Atlantic City. It's, whatever. Anyway, so they get off and go down Old Coke Road, and it is like it's just post-industrial like countryside. And the
Mhm.
thing is that, as said, like this is an amalgamation of like, because ostensibly this has to be New Jersey. They're going to Atlantic City. They're driving down the New Jersey Turnpike,
Yeah, they probably
and
didn't loop around through Pennsylvania as part
and
of this trip.
and they do pass, like, you know, it makes a point of like driving through like the refineries that like and all
Mhm.
the factory, like whatever all that shit is when you drive out of New York City. Like the stereotype of New Jersey being so disgusting
Yeah.
comes from, if you're driving out of New York City, like you're just hit by all these disgusting like refineries or whatever. And so it's like, okay, so it's the stereotype of New Jersey, but then we start driving through a town that is also obviously, and then they make this plain, Centralia, Pennsylvania, which is the town in in Pennsylvania where there was a coal mining fire underneath it, and it was like a massive coal mining town. So there has just been an unending fire underneath Centralia, Pennsylvania for decades.
Yeah.
And like the streets are breaking open and smoke will just pour through it. And like you can look online if you've never looked up Centralia, Pennsylvania. It is like kind of like a horror show.
Yeah.
And it's like a mostly abandoned town. Um, and so like that's part of it. But then like, yeah. Anyway,
And I mean, the town as it appears here is, I mean, yeah, it looks as much like, yeah, I mean, burnout Pennsylvania coal camp, burnout,
mhm.
West Virginia, Kentucky sort of coal camp. I mean, this is very much like a setting that I've seen before IRL
Mhm.
quite a bit. As I understand, I think the set was actually a an old West set that they
That's
filmed
funny.
on here
That's
that they kind of dressed
unsurprising.
as something that would look like modern day burnt out rundown coal town sort of thing. But yeah, it's the town of Valkenvania.
Yeah, and then Chris makes a big mistake. He does a rolling stop and a turn on a stop sign, and a cop sees him. And so now we finally get past Vulcanvania and into beautiful countryside. And then we notice that the cops are like a cop is following him, and then the Brazilians have an idea, and I have a clip.
Oh, no, cop.
Oh. Were you speeding?
65, that's the national speed limit.
Well, not everywhere. It said 50 back there.
50? Why didn't you tell me?
You don't have to stop.
What? Right. Let's get out their guns and blow out his front tires. Are you crazy? Of course I'm gonna stop. He's a policeman.
What are you talking about, dude? This is a provincial cop, man. With this car, you could easily get away from him. Let's see if we could do 90.
Now, I gotta say, one thing that really kills me about this movie is just that nothing makes sense. And that was just a series of like things where like Chris assumes that there's a national speed limit, a thing that is not true.
Right.
And even I know that as someone that does not drive. Then the Brazilian, like they're like, you should speed.
Yes, you can outrun this guy. This is no problem. You're in a Beamer.
Like you understand that, like, police have like radios.
Yeah.
You can call, like, you can outrun perhaps one police officer, but typically, like, there will be other ones.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
and he is so easily goaded into this too, because it becomes like that clip ended with him saying, I bet this thing can do 90, and he's like, it can do 140 or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And
like he's good at he wants to really take advantage of.
Yeah.
And so he does. He starts to speed, and then we see in a little taste of what's to come. The police here aren't quite like your normal cops that you'll find in any provincial town. But instead, you see that the cop car has like this control panel with extra buttons, like it's a episode of Batman.
yeah, it's like
And
turbines to speed kind of stuff. Yeah, they're like flipping switches, and they're
yeah,
rockets coming out of the back of the car to fuel it forward, and like he's flipping a switch that's causing like a road closure to slide into place to send them off on an off-road detour.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got all kinds of gadgets and gizmos, which is the beginning of a theme that will continue right on through the end of this movie.
So anyway, so they get pulled over eventually by the cops, and out steps the cop, and it's Dennis. It's John Candy, who tells him that he rolled through his stop. So they're very strict here in Vulcanvania, so you have to go to the justice of the peace right now.
Mhm.
And so they drive. They've lost signal on their GPS. Early usage of that trope.
Yeah, that's how you know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Nothing but trouble.
Oh, brother. We get a remote controlled gate, and now we see a bunch of like folk art like made out of garbage, and like it's essentially like we see this salvage yard, a dilapidated mansion surrounded by like metal garbage, right?
Yeah, and signage saying things like "no cussing," and yeah, I mean, right away, it's a bizarre compound. Yeah, I mean, the weird metal artwork. They're piping in music everywhere.
Right.
It's like already giving very kind of creep show sort of vibes.
Yep. And so we go into this mansion. It's like full of garbage everywhere, and the like they can't make a phone call because they don't have phones there. And the John Candy takes everyone's IDs, and we get to the start of the court case. This is now we're in. Now we
Now
see
it's
all
happening.
sorts of stuff spin around and like, you know, like a painting spin around and become a different painting and all this crap, all this kooky crap happens, and then a judge whose face we don't see yet, like, is lowered from the ceiling or something.
Yeah. It's some sort of mechanical elevatory type
Yeah.
contraption. And yeah, he's a very old man, you can tell, even though his face is obscured at first. He's the justice of the peace. He's Alvin Valkenheiser.
Yes.
And he's going to be played by director Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. And so he's he finds out Chris's job, Chris, who is in financial publishing, which again, you know, who cares? What a
Yeah.
who cares job. And the judge is like, "Oh, well, you're a banker." Now,
And this guy hates bankers. He
hates bankers. Here's the thing. He constantly elides that, like, Chevy Chase, like, his character, it's like, "Oh, you're a banker and I don't trust bankers." Like, why didn't they just make Chevy Chase a banker, or make it that the judge has like this hatred of financial publishers? Like, it feels like there's too many steps to getting to. It's like he just is like, because Chevy Chase is not a banker. He works in money, but he's like it's just a very confusing, like, this
I
could
hesitate to
just
defend
do
this.
with being simplified.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be better if it were simpler. I mean, absolutely. You know, I guess in defense, if the goal is here to make this all feel like this is just out of control and, you know, that everything's just going off the rails. Yeah, it's maybe it compounds even further the, like, I'm trapped in this crazy house because I rolled through a stop sign.
Yeah.
And I'm not even really a banker. Maybe it's just one more thing that makes all of this seem so out of left field. And I don't know. It doesn't enhance anything. Again, it just sort of, and again, I don't know if the average movie goer in 1991, if they hear financial publishing, is going to know how that's different from a banker or a stockbroker or whatever sort of thing we're dealing with. It just seems like a weird, just a wrinkle that doesn't add anything, but just requires a little bit of explanation.
Yeah. Anyway, so Diane tries to get everyone to calm down, and this is when we first see the judge.
Let's just be quiet and let him do his little thing, and we'll be on our way.
Oh, I will let you be on your way, and when you go, the cat's eyes will spin. Now listen.
Okay, we'll listen.
Hey, ho, ha, ho. Hula, 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 the bula, bula, bula. Look who's got the front seats of the Mexican hat dance now.
You know, like, it's just there's a lot of, like, I understand you think this is funny comedy in this.
And I mean, this is every line the judge delivers the whole movie, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all that sort of stuff delivered with that level of enthusiasm. And it never quite gets funny. It gets weird a little bit. And I mean, is now the time to talk about the prosthetics and makeup here on Dan Aykroyd?
He has a nose that looks like a penis.
Yeah, I mean, there's no getting around this. I don't think I realized it as a kid because, I mean, I was probably watching it on a crummy TV without resolution to really see it well. Mm-hmm. And I also just don't know. I wasn't looking for penises everywhere like I am now.
Yeah.
But, you know, the tip of his nose absolutely looks like what I understand a penis to look like.
It looks like Baby Billy, you know, if you watch The Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, I mean, the whole thing is just grotesque old man makeup. And you think to yourself, boy, this is grotesque makeup, but you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, this is just an amuse-bouche.
That's right.
Now, so we get that, and once Chevy is just not having it, and he yells at the judge, and he swears, and the judge is like, all right, well, we'll see you at your hearing tomorrow. And then they're all like, no, we have to get to Atlantic City. And this is probably the most dramatic gizmo yet. He pushes a button and they all fall through the floor.
Yeah. Again, kid me loves that sort of shit.
Yeah.
Give me
And
more buttons.
and the judge and the cop Dennis talk, and the cop in a sign of, and this is a very undeveloped subplot where like the John Candy, the cop, is just kind of like, hey, these guys are all right, you should let them go.
Which is very kind considering they just sent him on a pretty dramatic high-speed chase. I mean, yeah, he's just like, he feels very like worn down by having to be this constable for what we find out is kind of a maniac of a judge. He's very much like, can we just
That's his father or something, like they're related, right?
Yeah, father or grandfather. I can't remember. Maybe father, I guess, because we'll meet the grandsons soon enough. So I'm guessing.
Yeah, and wait,
or
are
maybe
those
nephew.
Grandsons John Candy's kids? I don't
Maybe
think that's...
not. No, I don't think that's implied at any point.
Yeah, I don't think... Whatever. Anyway...
We'll talk about the grandsons. Don't worry.
Yeah. Anyway, so now, we hang out with our group a little bit in this weird underground area, but let's go to... We see people, a bunch of drunks, speeding through town. The guy driving kind of looks like Alec Baldwin, right? Didn't he kind of look like a younger
I actually thought it was
Alec
Stephen Baldwin for a moment.
Oh, yeah. He was giving
real
Baldwin.
Stephen Baldwin.
And so they're speeding through. They get pulled over by the cop. They're being dicks to the cop. And they do a whole bunch of funny double entendres about like blow on the breathalyzer, and they talk about the act of a blowjob and other rude and risque things.
I was pretty like aghast at that scene. It was a little too sexual for me.
Yeah. And then the guy pulls a gun on the cop. And this actually kind of made me... This is the first chuckle. I made a note. This was my first chuckle of the film, which is that then John Candy, he looks legitimately scared. Yeah. Officer Candy. And then like he slaps the gun out of the guy's hand and he pulls out this like semi-automatic rifle. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
like
great.
out of nowhere.
It's really good.
That's a good joke because it's like, oh, you have a gun? I'm scared. Actually, I have a bigger gun. That's like just a basic joke, well done by an actor who's a very talented comedian.
Yeah, that's like a classic Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah,
this is a knife kind of moment. That was. I will agree. Again, John Candy is far and away the best thing about this film. I think that
there's something else that's really great, but we'll get there.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Yeah.
So this group of drunks that pulled a gun on Officer Candy are all in court and they're all carrying on and they've got drugs. So the judge sentenced them to death, and then he pushes a button that sends them down a conveyor belt. They go down they slide down it. They go to the Mr. Bone Stripper. What's that, Jess?
Mr. Bone Stripper. Mr. Bone Stripper is like an old wooden roller coaster that the judge dumps people into. It has its own hair metal theme music that I think they hear too. I think that is like not just something we hear as part of the soundtrack.
You're saying that it's diegetic.
I think it's diegetic. I think they're also hearing the Mr. Bone Stripper theme.
Mr. Bone Stripper, strip me a bone, 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 bone.
So that's not the song. It's hair metal.
Yeah.
They're going down this roller coaster,
it's
and
that
eventually
song in hair metal.
In hair metal form. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just go to Spotify, search Mr. Bone Stripper, you'll hear it. It dumps them out at the end of this scary roller coaster ride onto a conveyor belt that sends them into this gaping mouth with like what look like meat tenderizers that are coming up and down. Basically, it strips the flesh from their bones and shoots their skeletons out on the other side. This is death by roller coaster. This movie has more bones in it than I think any movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
The bones are just everywhere.
It's just a bone heavy film. Now, I was watching this with a dog, and he thought it was the greatest film he'd ever seen. Now,
see, I thought it was a little rough. That's a joke for your dog. This is comedy, baby. This is funnier than the movie up to this point. I promise. As unfunny as that was, that's funnier than most of this movie.
I want to make it clear that also this movie is aggressively unpleasant. Like if you're listening to this and you're thinking this all sounds kind of interesting, it's not. So our heroes are back with them, and a cop. I think this is Priscilla. No, there are two cops. There's Dennis and Priscilla. I think this is Dennis. Anyway, Dennis comes down. It's time for supper. The judge is lowered down again, and so this is John Candy, Officer Candy, Officer Priscilla, who I don't know what actor who that is.
I'm not sure either, honestly.
Like, yeah, I didn't recognize her.
I read on IMDb that they offered that to Catherine O'Hara, and she didn't accept the role.
Yeah, I mean, good call.
Yes.
Also, she would have, like her SCTV comrade John Candy, she would have, like, Catherine O'Hara. I want to be very clear, Jess. I've been on the Catherine O'Hara train for a long time, well before everyone got so high on her in Schitt's Creek, and I'm glad, and I'm glad that we all are. I'm glad that she got to have like this, this big, like
second
very
act.
Recent, like thing where everybody, and also, but I think she would have found something in this, but in the same way where John Candy is doing it, and like he's finding stuff in it, but he can't save the movie, and she wouldn't be able to save this either. But I would have liked to see her, because I would have liked to see
the
her.
movie would have been slightly better with her regardless. Like, there's no question she would, because right now that character kind of just exists and has very little to do. Her presence would have added to it, but that's all beside the point. This is also IMDb, so this could be made up.
Oh, okay, that's true. Anyway, so I think this is the scene that most people, when they talk about Nothing But Trouble, this is the scene I think most people remember. Would you agree with that? Like,
I would. I think it's one of two, and we'll talk about the other one here before too long.
Right.
I think it is. I mean, because again, it's like you're at a table, the judge is lowered down. It's a table with contraptions again. You have like a model train that's serving as a lazy Susan to take condiments around the table and everything. And it's sort of a low-key gross out meal, which is always a good gag in a movie, but it's not that gross.
Okay, so let's talk about, all right. So
Hawaiian punch is served.
Oh yeah, so Hawaiian punch is served, and he puts like this, like Dan Aykroyd, the judge, he puts like this like
oil can spout,
like this oil can spout on it to pour it out
straight out of the can. And I like that. I think that's kind of an interesting quirk. Again, if your goal is to make these people seem quirky and weird, the idea that they're like serving cans of Hawaiian punch at supper, that's fun. That's fine.
I don't think that fun. It just kind of seemed like a thing to me.
I'm looking for bright spots.
Yeah.
Ben. I'm looking for anything. I'm grasping at straws.
There's John Candy there. It's delightful.
He is. He's there twice.
Yeah, we'll get there. And then, so Dennis offers ants on a log to Diane, and it's just straightforward celery, peanut butter, and raisins.
Just what we call ants on a log.
And Diane acts as if she's being offered monkey's brains in Temple of Doom.
They're going to that vibe, and it's like, and she's like holding it up, like studying it, like, what is this? And it's just like, yeah, kids in daycares are eating this right now around America. It's not that strange.
It's an odd appetizer for a group of adults, but it's not like, it's
like
not.
The gag would seem to be like if it had actual ants on it. would be
Right.
kind of how it's being treated. It's like, oh, it's not raisins. These are actually bugs. But
Yeah.
it's not that. They're just raisins. And she seems freaked out. And then they bring out what appears to be just an authentic sausage.
Well,
that
yeah,
is
and
in
he
a
calls them
casing.
hot dogs, but they're just overcooked sausages, which they look gray. Like, I mean, generally not
Yeah.
even overcooked. Like they're overcooked because they're just like they're kind of floppy. So there's again we have a
Yeah.
little phallic humor. Um, but like I've eaten sausages that look like this. Like
That's right. It
it's
goes like a veal sausage, which is delightful. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of horseradish with that, and I'm good to go.
everybody, like all of our characters are like, this is the most vile thing I've ever seen, and it's just like it literally is just a sausage.
Yeah.
That's a little too floppy.
Yeah.
like,
I mean, they're New York yuppies. They're probably exclusively in sushi and like composed plates that have a single green bean
mhm.
and like a small medallion of beef and like a demi-glace on it. And that's their entire meal normally. So this probably is strange too.
We do get a little more exposition from the judge about why he hates bankers, which is like a generation back. The town were because the judge fought in World War One.
Right.
So it might have been a generation behind him. Anyway,
Yeah.
like his grandfather or whatever, like sold the town to like some financiers or something that like did all the strip mining and made it this disgusting mess. The
Yeah.
end.
Bankers swindled his family and he hates them to this day.
The impression though is that they got a lot of money for it. He says that he didn't get paid, but then they imply then he says later that he has money. I was not clear on this. Anyway,
Not either.
and then also this is when we meet Eldona, who is his granddaughter, played by John Candy in drag. And it's just a lot of like fat jokes and stuff like that. Like it's like, ooh, doesn't she like yuck? And it's it's just not.
It's not as mean as it could be.
It is,
but it's not great either.
once again. It's John Candy, and there's just John Candy is an undeniable force as a performer
He's
in
playing it very
making-
sincere to his credit. Like he's not going for the goofy slapsticky I'm a guy wearing a dress kind of gags that you'd expect from a movie of this sort.
But
He's
the
doing what he
movie
can
is-
with a terrible idea.
But the movie is making that joke just because
The movie
it's
is
John
anyway,
Candy
even while
in a
he's
dress.
trying to do it like with dignity, the movie insists that dignity is not his to have.
Anyway, so then we hear a blast. We find out it's the mine fire. This is when the Brazilianaires are like, all right, we're going to escape. They jump out a window, and Priscilla just starts shooting a machine gun at them.
Yes. She has just a machine gun rifle. She pulls out and just starts opening fire to try to kill the Brazilianaires. But they escape the grounds and swim across a moat of
toxic,
gross, slurry
fetid
water.
weather. Yeah, that they say smells
like Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
And then they swim to the other side where John Candy is waiting for them. And they seem to have a moment where they offer him hints of a better life. And he seems to consider this. And then we leave that thread dangling for the moment.
We don't see them again for what felt like 10 hours, which was fine because I did not care for those characters. Swing and a miss. Now, while there was that whole melee there, Chris and Diane also tried to escape, but they're caught by Aldona. And they get taken up to their disgusting room. And then, as you said, we cross cut again with the Brazilianaires. Actually, so this is a clip covered by one thing that you said already.
Congratulations, folks. You made it across our gully.
I don't know, the way he said you made it across our gully.
Just very good.
Which is, no one would call that a gully. Anyway, but we were, they try to bribe him and he starts to consider it, as you said. All right, so Chris and Diane are in their room. Chris has made a fire. they talk about her marital situation, which is also tied to the complicated financial plot, and I'm just not going to talk about it. It just
The movie
anyway.
doesn't care about it. Why should we care about it?
The movie cares about that Chevy Chase gets to kiss Demi Moore, which starts happening now.
Yes.
And like that was probably the only thing that Chevy was excited about in this film, and then this happens.
I'm such a pushover. I mean, I'm such a sucker. I just love a pretty face. Oh, it's so embarrassing. Oh, I better lie down. Oh, you're nothing but trouble.
She says the title.
That's the title. I heard it right there. Nothing
She says,
but trouble.
she says the title there, and yeah, whatever. This guy got you in a real fucking mess. He's made the wrong choice every time, which is true. He is nothing but trouble. But I mean, I would do everything I could to get away from him because he's got you into this, like, essentially put your life in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And this is Chevy Chase isn't as sexy anymore. I'm sorry to say, like, you know, he just isn't. This is the midpoint of the film. Now we cut to.
When you say he's not sexy anymore, do you mean as he was at the beginning of the film?
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Well, yeah. His performance up to this point has made him less sexy than he even began the film.
So we cut back to later. Chris starts to cuddle up with her, and then the bed flips around, music plays. They try. Then their door opens for some reason, and they start running down like the hallway and up some stairs, and like there's comedy of them running into different rooms. There's a room with bats and filled with bat shit, and there's a room with creepy dolls, blah blah blah. Like they almost get trapped in the hallway. There's just a lot of
Yeah, there are
kooky
walls
house
closing
crap.
in on them. Like, yeah, I mean, it's booby traps, it's weird rooms, it's kind of everything that you expect. It's got a Scooby Doo vibe to it.
There's a real Scooby Doo.
It's only going to intensify.
And they end up in an attic, and it's full of IDs and connected with clippings of people who had said disappeared, including Jimmy Hoffa.
Oh man, that's a great 80s, 90s movie kind of joke, right?
Yes.
Jimmy Hoffa joke.
And then, but then they say it's like, oh, and all of the people who are here are bankers. But Jimmy Hoffa was a union leader. He was not a banker. And also later it's revealed that the judge likes union workers and generally lets them free. So actually, Jimmy Hoffa, even if he was, you know, like whatever his corruption may have been or whatever, you know, I watched The Irishman. I know the whole story. Like he's not a person that anyway.
Well, in all fairness, neither is Chris Thorne. So, you know, I mean, like maybe he came in and he told the judge, I'm a union leader. And the judge was like, a banker, eh? And just, threw him in the bone splitter or stripper. Not splitter. That'd be ridiculous.
So this is when we get like they see a whole bunch of skeletons, and we see the two of them, Chris and Diane, start to cuddle up. Now they're both smoking cigars. Chris has like a bottomless pocket of cigars. Like
large
he just
cigars.
has, and they're all they're huge cigars, and he has an endless amount of them. And the thing is that I don't know, like there's just some places where like the elasticity of the plot like exists, and then places where it doesn't, and it's like, okay, well, you know, the people that live in Vulcanvania are all weird, but like Chevy Chase is a straight man, so he shouldn't, you know, have these magic cigar, whatever. Anyway, so as they're cuddling up, they're like they fall through a floor or something, and then they go down a big slide that splits them up for essentially the rest of the movie. And like Diane ends up in like a big pile of trash, and Chris ends up in a big pile of bones. The dog I was watching this with, started like panting.
Howling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Chris is in a spot now though where he's like can see the judge. And I'm confused here because it's like
He's watching the judge like through a peephole.
Yeah, but ostensibly Chris and Diane were sent down the slide intentionally, but it seems like Chris is sneaking around. But what like the judge should know that Chris is peeping on him because that is one of the routes that the slide that he was sent on could end up.
Yeah. I mean, this is a possibility that one or both of them could currently be behind the wall of his chambers, bedroom sort of thing. Yeah. And Chevy's peeking at me. And then it turns out this gross old man is grosser than we thought. His penis nose is, in fact, a prosthetic that he peels off, and he appears not to have a nose. Is that how you read that?
Yeah,
scene?
he has like a two-faced
Voldemort.
burnt off face.
Yeah,
burnt
that's
off
right.
Nose.
Yeah, he takes off
and
a
fake
wig.
leg and a wig.
Yeah, and so, like some teeth he takes out and everything. Yeah, he's got. So it turns out this incredibly gross old man, I guess, is slightly grosser than we believed him to be. So that's something.
Yeah. Anyway, then he lays down and goes to bed, and then he farts. It plays a fart sound effect.
Oh man, the sound effects in this movie in general, they're yeah.
So now we see Diane. She finds the BMW. The top frame has been removed, but she tries to drive it, can't. Then she tries to use the car phone, and call 911, but that doesn't work. Then she spies two characters, and it's two guys in haunting, flabby fat suits, with two
And
pairs
dappers.
with two pairs of breasts. Like they have like 4 breasts. And they're wearing diapers, and they're like just screaming at each other. Anyway, she gives up her location as caught. And Altoona is going to throw her into a fire pit into the mine, but the kids want to play with her.
Yeah, these are Alvin's grandsons. They're Bobo and Lil Devil. Lil Devil.
Yeah.
And as they explain, they have to live outside because they're so fat. And they're so fat they couldn't finish high school.
Is it that they say they're so fat? Because it's like, I think like the implication is that they have like some sort of developmental disability.
I think they say like explicitly, because I know IMDb says that Dan Aykroyd based this on 2 children that he met who weren't allowed to live inside because of their weight, which feels again like IMDb
That doesn't
hallucinating something.
That
can't be right.
That doesn't seem like a thing.
No, this is terrible. They are grotesque. And
Dan Aykroyd based these 2 characters off of these children that really needed Health and Human Services to rescue them.
Yeah, it's
or I guess
he's
he
like,
grew
this
up
would
in
be
Canada, whatever the equivalent is.
Yeah, no, I mean it's awful though. I mean it's just like weird freak show, gross out. Like I'm not sure how old these kids are supposed to be. Like, are they young adults? Are they children? And they are. It's just a bad part of the movie.
Anyway, but now something great happens in a little bit.
So,
we're getting
okay,
we're coming close. So now we're back in the house. The judge is dead asleep, but he gets a call from Priscilla. There's some new speeders in town, and so he says he'll be right down. And then we see that she's captured the hip hop group Digital Underground.
Bay Area rappers, Digital Underground, are here,
and they're for
an extended cameo.
So here's a clip. This is maybe the second line that made me chuckle.
Man, would you look at this place? It's like extremely Draculated.
White man's heaven.
The phrase extremely Draculated is pretty funny.
It's really good. It almost makes you wonder if that was improvised. It doesn't feel like the comedy that exists anywhere else in the film, which extremely Draculated is a very good line.
Extremely Draculated. Like that's a beautiful little turn of phrase. I love Draculated, and saying something is extremely Draculated is just wonderful.
If I take anything from this movie, it's going to be a desire to use the phrase
extremely.
This is extremely Draculated sometime before the end of 2025. Probably around Halloween, if I take a guess. Probably late October would be a good time.
If you can
for
find
that.
a way to work it in before late October.
So yeah, Digital Underground's here. Let me tell you, Ben, this is the other reason I love this movie. I was a massive Digital Underground fan. Like I had their cassette for their debut album. I had singles. I had the EP release that included the songs they perform in this film. Actually, it was that EP release titled "This Is an EP Release" that in the liner notes of this album that includes the 2 songs that they perform here and a couple of others. In the liner notes, it notes that these songs were made for the film Valkenvania before the title was changed to Nothing But Trouble. And that fascinated me as a kid. Like back then in a pre-internet era, getting a hold of a little piece of movie trivia, like the idea that this movie Nothing But Trouble used to be called Valkenvania.
Wow.
Like for 14-year-old Jess.
I know exactly what you mean when you got this thing and you knew, like when you saw it, you're like, oh, this movie has another name. Like it was like you get this little taste of something, of forbidden knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
You have had to have been subscribing to Entertainment Weekly to find something like that out otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this was a nugget of information. But yeah, Digital Underground's here. It feels very much like a Scooby-Doo guest spot. I mean, it's kind of like, let's solve a mystery in a haunted chocolate factory with Mama Cass Elliot. All of a sudden, Digital Underground's here, and they're being brought before the judge.
So Chris watches the judge ride the thing down, and then he slips into the judge's room. We find out why the judge's face is all screwed up. It's because he was blasted in the foundry. Then the judge comes back, and then they have this fight, which involves Chris stepping in the judge's sloshing bedpan.
Oh man, there it is. Yeah, well, nothing like some bedpan humor, huh?
Then Chris runs out and directly into Altoona. I wrote Altoona. I forgot her name.
Eldona.
Into Altoona, and here's the thing. She seems like she's everywhere, which is another bit of magical realism that they could either make a joke out of or not, and they don't. So it just kind of seems like she's like has plot convenience. Whereas it's like you could just make a joke that like she somehow is there. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, you know, like,
because she's out in the junkyard a moment ago.
Yeah, like she was just with the 2 like grandchildren, and then all of a sudden she teleports to be in the hallway directly outside of the judge's room. Like, there's the potential for comedy here, that it just so happens that she's everywhere she needs to be, and they don't do it.
Yeah, no, it's just sort of left there. It could be interesting. It isn't. Yeah. I'm just going to assume there are a series of secret passageways moving her around this.
See, that would at least, yeah, whatever. Anyway, now that he's run into her, we the judge is like, now that you touched her, you're going to get married. That's the house policy. And then
marry her or die is the ultimatum, right?
Yeah, and then but now the judge goes back to his trial with the Digital Underground. This is when they present their union card, and it's revealed that they're musicians. The judge wants to see their instruments, and we'll get back. We're switching back to Chris chained up and Altoona is changing into her bridal dress while Big Girls Don't Cry plays. And this is another time where I wrote down in my notes, quote, "Man, John Candy is trying so hard. He's really putting a lot of mustard in. This is why I would
Yes.
like to see Catherine O'Hara here, because I just know that she's incapable of, like, she could always find something."
She would not phone it in, just
Yeah.
like John Candy is not phoning it in.
Yeah. Anyway, so now Chris is being walked out in shackles by Priscilla with a gun. Um, now we see Diane playing cards with the boys. Um, there's that. Okay. And now this is the best part of the movie when we just see Digital Underground play a song. What song do they play, Jess?
They play a song called Same Song.
Yeah. And
It's a great song. It's a really good song.
it's a very good song.
It's wonderful. I mean, something that I find kind of funny about this. This is, again, 14-year-old me loved Digital Underground. I was just actually listening to Digital Underground a couple of days ago in anticipation of watching this movie. Not only do we have John Candy and Dan Aykroyd playing dual roles, we probably should have mentioned one of those grandsons is also Dan Aykroyd in a whole bunch of prosthetics, but I don't want to talk about them any more than we have to.
No.
But, sort of the lead of Digital Underground as a rap troupe is rapper Shock G. And what I didn't realize as a 14-year-old boy is that Shock G is also Humpty Hump, the jester of the group. So he is playing a dual role here, as he did throughout Digital Underground's career, using a body double so he can perform as both Shock G and Humpty Hump. He's very much fitting into the vibes here. He also has a prosthetic nose, much like Dan Aykroyd, so he can embody Humpty Hump.
Yeah.
And it's a good performance. I mean, Dan Aykroyd's character rips off an organ solo that actually appears in the recorded single for this. And we have a huge film debut in the middle of this scene.
Oh, yeah? Who?
We have Tupac Shakur, who used to clown around when he hang around with the Underground. Tupac is here.
Yeah.
He is singing backup for
Tupac is in it. He's in
Tupac's
the movie.
in it. Tupac's looking great. Tupac's just there. This is pre-poetic justice. The Tupac is there.
He's in nothing but trouble.
He's just singing along to the song and performing for Dan Aykroyd's Gross Old Judge. And there's Tupac. There is hip-hop legend Tupac.
So now the judge enjoyed it. He's like, "I'll let you go. Congratulations, Digital Underground. But I do need you to help me with one more thing." And so now we get a walk and talk with the judge and Chris. And here we go.
In many cases here, I do often choose to invade the maximum levy. Frequently, undesirables are put to death.
Oh, sure, I can understand that, Judge. But come on. Death for running a stop sign?
And for being a banker, that's the double death.
Anyway, so he's going to let him go if he marries his granddaughter. And then you get to live here and become his heir.
Wow.
Great.
All this could be yours.
Yeah. And he gets his cuffs off, and now we see Aldona walk down in a bridal gown, and Digital Underground is playing like the bridal march.
That song is called Tie the Knot. It actually has several verses on the EP release.
I'm going to have to listen to that.
This is a fully formed song.
Really?
At one point, they start getting really loose with the vocals, and Shock G says, "Come on, take this seriously. It's for the movie." In the rap song itself, he encourages the rest of the band to tighten up the vocals.
That's fun.
But no, I mean, this is great. They perform. Again, the sound effects in this movie are something else. When he kisses Aldona at the end of the ceremony, there's like a wacky cork popping sound effect when they part lips. It's like, just way over the top. It doesn't feel like part of this movie at some level, but yeah. And
so they kiss, and I also laughed because it's like, that's actually two men kissing, which I find very comical. Now Uh,
Can you
then,
imagine?
then Chris tries to escape, and the judge is like, "You don't want to marry my beautiful granddaughter anymore. I sentence you to death." And he pushes the conveyor belt button.
Oh god, this is great though. He tries to get like Digital Underground to help him, and they're just like, "Oh no, I was really nervous on my wedding day too."
Yeah.
It's like they like exit the
Yeah,
court.
they're just like, we're done. We're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
We've been paid already. I'm sorry.
We're done with the film. We're
What
going
kind
home.
of weird corporate situation do you think got this extended digital? I mean, this had to be
You know,
some sort
this
of weird
actually feels,
synergy thing.
I don't know, this kind of feels a little like Dan Aykroyd is cool energy,
Maybe
because
so.
that's what I was like, kind of like when he starts playing the organ, like when he starts hitting the keys of it, I was just like, it gave me a little bit of like a Blues Brothers type feeling, you know what I mean? Like where it's just like,
Okay.
oh, see, look, I can hang too, you
Yeah.
know?
I
Like,
know about rappers.
yeah,
I'm
like
Dan Aykroyd, and I'm here to say I listen to rap music every day. Yeah.
hold on, let me clap so I can get time.
That's right. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Maybe that's it, because I can't imagine.
That was my feeling, but maybe it was
Yeah.
like that the record was, because what is this, Warner Brothers, whoever, like it was whatever.
That's my guess too. That was immediately what I thought. And there's another good reason to think it's Warner Brothers toward the end, but we'll get there.
Anyway. So now he goes down into the roller coaster conveyor belt. And fortunately Chris exhibits the fortitude that others haven't, and just kind of runs in the opposite direction on the conveyor belt just long enough that it falls apart.
Yeah, most people are just content to be bone stripped.
Yeah,
he's the first one to
people-
ever try to, yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest here, I think I wouldn't mind being bone stripped.
If you gotta go, there are worse ways.
Yeah, you know, being bone stripped.
This thing's an e-ticket ride at Valkenvania.
yeah, for sure. Anyway, so he's just launched into another pile of bones, and the dog I was sitting with, like, you know, he just salivated all over the couch. I was just like, dang, I'm gonna have to clean up all this dog drool.
Knick-knack, paddywhack, give that dog a bone.
That's right. That also would have been a good title for this movie. Now, we see Priscilla and the judge, and Priscilla's like, "I'll go get him." And then we see we check in with Officer John Candy, who's been conspicuously absent. And we see him packing his things, and we see a Hawaiian shirt in there. So it looks like he took up the Brazilianaires on their offer. All right, goodbye. And now we're in the junkyard, and we see that the judge has some sort of smashing, like triple guillotine, or like nine bladed guillotine thing. And
Yeah,
he's,
like triple guillotine,
smashing
the greater teen. I think is what it's labeled.
Oh, is that what it's labeled? Really?
Yeah, the greater teen.
That's funny. No,
I don't know what grade there is, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just
but
like
we see it like destroy like 9 watermelons or some shit like that.
that's like an entire Gallagher tour.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what this is like. And
Boy, it really is. It's like going on tour with Gallagher.
this is like seeing Gallagher 2 times 9 minus 9. Now, anyway, so
The math worked out.
the math did work out. The math worked out.
Please continue. Please.
Now, so the grandkids are there, and they hand over Diane to the judge, and the judge is like, "I'll kill Diane unless you give yourself up." But she grabs the radio and says that he should run for his life. Now we see that Diane is being tied down by the grandsons because they love her. And we see Chris sneaking around. At first he thinks to escape, but then what? In another moment where like it's like kind of the like his heart kind of becomes bigger. Like he decides he's going to turn around and save Diane.
Yeah.
But it, again, another draft would have kind of made this a stronger moment, would have also kind of, because also she's fallen in love with him already. Like
And
her
at the very least, he
resistance,
wants to sleep with her.
yeah, her resistance to him, like here's another thing, like her resistance to Chris like crumbles very quickly.
Instantly. Yeah.
And
The
so
first
it's
minute
like
it has
there's
a chance
not
to.
an arc. It's just kind of like a line that goes like a 90-degree angle where it just kind of is like
Yeah.
she's kind of charmed by him, and then like she's in love with him.
Yeah.
And
And he doesn't really exhibit any kind of similar.
no,
I mean, again,
he
it's not
doesn't
quite
have an arc
but
except for this
no.
moment where it looks like he's going to escape, and then he's like, no, I should
Yeah.
save her.
Yeah. Which is still just like the bare minimum of being a decent human being.
Yeah.
It's not like he's like changed his ways. He's, even while he's rescuing her, he's still kind of an asshole.
So he has no real plan. He's just kind of turning around, and we see her change her mind. She told him to run, and now she's like, you better save me. So it's like, it's just very muddy, like it's very muddy. Like
Yeah.
it could, because she's like, you should run, and now she's like, I'm gonna be mad unless you save me. But you knew you were being selfless there, and he was being like decided to be selfless in turn, and then she's like, you selfish asshole, you better save, like it just whatever. Anyway, it's just it like, these are just things.
Yeah.
Dan, give me a call. We're going to do Nothing But Trouble, not 2 but V2, where
That's
we
right.
just take a pass. We take the Ghostbusters pass.
And I mean, really, the directing here fails it a bit too. Like, there's no sense of like where people are like geographically relative to one another. I mean, it's all just kind of like the action here just isn't filmed in a way that's completely legible. I feel like to the viewer, it's supposed to be like the big high stakes climax of the movie, and it kind of plays dead on screen, which is unfortunate.
So yeah, and so he's running back, and he doesn't even seem to have an idea of what he's going to do, and then he essentially solves it as if it's a Half-Life 2 puzzle.
Yes.
Which is that he uses an oily rag to set a bunch of flammable like gas barrels on fire, which is how like the first third of Half-Life 2 is mostly like shoot the gun at flaming barrels, and then like you'll see physics happen.
Yes.
And that's what happens here.
Yeah. And it seems like he may be putting her at great danger while doing this.
Yeah, no, this would certainly take out at least 3 or 4 Combine soldiers easy. So now Chris goes and he unties Diane, pulls her out in the nick of time. There's more explosions, and now they make it to the gully, as Officer John Candy put it.
Shot from the exact same angle, so you know you're in the same place.
Yeah, and Chris
they
says
can't move
that
the camera here.
it smells like Sao Paulo, which is, that's kind of funny, I guess.
I mean, a callback is funny because it's a callback.
And then they decide not to swim across it, but instead to run to the train.
Throw Mama on the train.
Yeah, and so they get on the train. They like Priscilla tries to, like, she shoots at them, but they make it. They have a framed old Hollywood hero kisses the girl kiss.
Yes. This is leading man Chevy Chase at his finest.
And so now we're in like I couldn't identify the skyline here, but it's like a capital looking city.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is Atlantic City, but we have this scene. Diane and Chris, they're in front of a whiteboard, and they have a whole this whole like drawn diagram of the house,
like
and blah blah blah.
Dry erase marker the entire compound, and they're telling this wild story that, of course, doesn't make any sense when they're talking about bone strippers and judges with fake prosthetic teeth and noses.
This is like to the state's attorney. and like the state police, like the heads of the state police, one of whom is
Yeah.
being played by the great Brian Doyle Murray, who gets like
Very happy to see him.
a featuring credit, I believe, at the start, and I'd already forgotten that he was in this until he shows up here.
Yeah, he
And
has like 3 lines.
speaking of Catherine O'Hara roles, it's like him in Waiting for Guffman, where he's in it and like just has like 3 lines. Like,
Yeah.
it's like Brian Doyle Murray is a guy that just seems like he's cast in the things for you to go, it's Brian Doyle Murray, and that's it.
Yeah.
He's not even a character actor because like in a role like this, he's not even doing anything.
No, he's just like literally delivering a couple of lines because someone had to speak them.
It was just like a, hey, are you free, Brian? Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
feels
I'm
like he won a
around.
contest.
Yeah, like
But he's
yeah.
good. He's good.
Oh,
He's
he's
fine.
good. Like what? He's good at sitting in a chair. Like
Yeah, he looks and sounds like Brian Doyle Murray, which I like. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. I guess it'd be better than just like some Joe Schmo.
I love Brian Doyle Murray.
I do too. That's the thing. I'm not going to
How do you
complain
feel
about
about
Brian.
Joel Murray? One of the other, one
Yeah,
of
I
the
didn't
other
know there
Murrays.
was a
There's
Doyle
a ton of Murrays.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess they're all like in a celebrity golf tournament right now somewhere.
Like Joel Murray, you've seen him in something, I'm sure. He's like kind of like he's a character actor.
Oh, okay. I have
that-
seen this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
You've seen him. Like to me, and I don't think you watched this. If you he had a recurring role in Mad Men. That was
I did not watch that. What did I see him in? Oh my goodness.
I mean he's if you look like you you'll like I'm looking at his Wikipedia page now and it's like one of those like huge
Oh yeah.
like long lists where it's just like guy that showed up in an episode.
Yeah, he's been in one episode of everything.
He was in 119 episodes of Dharma and Greg though.
He was a series regular on Dharma and Greg. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Maybe that's where I've seen him.
But yeah, I mean he was like he's a real that guy. More of a character actor I would say than Brian Doyle Murray. Anyway, so now we see like a ton of cops in this huge like this ostentatious like show force.
Yeah, it almost looks like a military rollout.
Like into
it's like
Vulcan
cops and
Valley,
National Guard.
Pennsylvania. And they like so they're all like guns trained on them. And then Diane's like, you know what? Let's go to the door to get them out so they open up and so we can get in there. So Diane and Chris walk up to the door. The judge comes out and he like acts like a frail old man. Who are you? I'm just
What are
an
you
old
doing
man."
here at my house?
And then he's like, "Oh, by the way, I think there's some like a beehive behind you or whatever." And they turn around, and they're all on his side. They all like him. They all like his country fried justice.
That's right. It's the twist. All these cops are big fans of the justice of peace here, and yeah, Diane and Chris have fallen into the judge's clutches once again.
And then this is when like just the town starts to collapse into the mine. This is the big one. And we see
Coincidentally,
Priscilla
just in this moment.
die when she's in an outhouse and it just falls into the ground. So she dies pissing and shitting.
Oh man.
Diane and Chris get into the ruined Beamer and escape. Then we go to Brazil and we see the Brazilianaires with John Candy. And now he's paired with Renata. So good
Yeah,
for
he's
them,
their
I guess.
head of security, and I guess is now her lover.
So now we're back in New York. The Beamer is back. It's being parked. It's getting a spit shine. And Chevy is on his couch. He's having a terrible nightmare.
Talking in his sleep with some
yeah.
real Chevy Chase comedy here.
Diane wakes him up. You're safe. You're safe now. And he turns on the TV, and the news is about that huge fire. And it's led to crude oil, which again I thought it was going to be like, and look, it means that like he's like now they're absurdly wealthy, but that doesn't nothing.
I don't know.
I don't know. It just didn't. Anyway, and but now we see that the judge survived, and he says, "Well, I've got nothing left, so I'm gonna move in with my grandson-in-law. See you soon, banker." And that's when Chris yells no, and then he Looney Tunes runs through the wall. Like we don't see him do this, but we just see an outline of Chevy Chase in the wall, like a Looney Tunes joke. The
Yeah, I
end.
mean, it's literally just like the Looney Tunes. There is the outline of his body through the drywall with like a Looney Tunes sound effect as he springs through it, essentially, and he's run away because he is so just so, I guess, shocked by the fact that the judge is still out there and still coming for him. It For a wacky movie, this is tonally way off. And also, Ben, let me ask you this. Let me just ask you a question. Do you think that this ending was just supposed to be like a little twist ending? Or do you think there's any chance that they thought they were setting up a sequel of some sort? They weren't setting up a sequel, were they? Tell me they weren't setting up a sequel.
Jess, I don't think it. I don't.
They had to know this was not going to work out as they were wrapping this movie, right?
I don't know. I don't think that it was sequel teasing. I don't
No, I think this is just like wacky ending. Like it's never.
I think it's like a Twilight Zone ending. I think it's
Yeah,
just
I
that
do
he's not going to. So, all right. This is the end. How many Chevys out of 5 do you give Nothing But Trouble?
Oh man, Ben, I don't know. Like I was really trying to think about this. Like what does the movie do anything well? Like again, I think John Candy's pretty good in it, but after that, it is tough finding things that work here. I don't know who this is for. Like, is it for Chevy Chase
It's for
fans? Is it
Dan.
for
It's for
it's
Dan.
for Dan. I think that's the answer. It's for Dan
just
Aykroyd.
for Dan.
It is for Dan Aykroyd. People who love bones, like your dog, and Dan Aykroyd. I guess that's the question. I mean, maybe it's like a 1 Chevy out of 5. Obviously, I mean, like it's the lowest possible rating you can give. But like, you obviously couldn't recommend this movie to a normal human being. Could you recommend this movie to a Chevy Chase fan?
No.
No, not even if you're like the kind of obsessive who would launch a Chevy Chase podcast and get 23 episodes into it. You're saying even then you couldn't recommend this.
Unpleasant.
It is like bottom of the barrel.
It is. It's a movie. I mean, I've watched it twice. You've watched it multiple times. Like,
yeah,
it's a movie that, I mean, if you're going to watch, like it's a movie, you could watch it. But like, I wouldn't.
It is
Hopefully
unpleasant.
This is the last time I'm ever going to watch this.
Yeah, it is unpleasant in kind of every way. Like it's an unpleasant group of characters. It's an unpleasant story. It's unpleasant comedy. It's unpleasant sets and set. Like, yeah, I mean, everything about it is just, it's not a comfortable movie to watch. Like comedies from the 80s and 90s, I can watch a bad one usually pretty happily because if nothing else, they tend to be breezy. This thing feels weirdly heavy for a movie that has so little substance to it, right? I mean, it's almost oppressive to watch.
So I give this 1 Chevy. This movie, like, it has a lot of ideas, and it doesn't, like, I'm constantly going into like comedy notes mode when I like, in this, because it's just like there are ways you can make this fit into a rubric that is like, and I don't know if this would save this movie, but it would make it more like
a
more
movie
coherent.
Yeah, it needs to be more formulaic.
It needs some level of something, because it's just like it introduces a lot of ideas and never does anything with them. And it has like this overwrought, like, I think what it is that it just presents you with a lot of stuff that's kind of weird or gross, and is just like, these are jokes. And it's just like, those are not jokes.
No,
Like, those are not inherently funny.
and there's no craft to them per se. Yeah, I mean, no, it's yeah, no, it's true. And again, I think a lot of this movie, I think we see this and we see it before in other episodes. It's that sort of thing that comes with a lot of Chevy Chase films where it is depending entirely on
You said this
you
earlier,
liking
yeah, when
Chevy
like
Chase.
before the podcast, you said this,
Yeah.
where it's just
I
like,
feel like, yeah, it's just banking on the idea you love Chevy Chase so much, you will watch this movie and enjoy it because of that. And at some level, almost every Chevy Chase movie I feel works like that. Like, you know, Fletch is a movie I kind of love. You know, Fletch barely holds together as a film itself, but the performance is charming enough, and there's enough, you know, just kind of breezy comedy going on with mixed in with sort of the, you know, investigative journalism angle that's like, yeah, you know, Chevy's performance carries me through Fletch. You know, even in a you know, Vegas Vacation is a terrible entry in the Vacation series.
mhm.
But even there, Chevy Chase is able to muster enough of performance like, okay, I can kind of get down with some of this. But here it's counting on you loving Chevy, and then the script doesn't give Chevy much to make you love him, and certainly he doesn't bring anything to the table that elevates that script. He
Right.
is sleepwalking through this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it stinks. It's a lousy movie. It just kind of embodies just all these really annoying early 90s film cliches, all the like gizmos and stuff, and like a very, like, like how in Hook, it's like we spend a lot of time with Robin Williams's job, and it's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Mhm.
hey, do you care about Robin Williams's job? And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I don't.
And I mean, again, a lot of this feels like Dan Aykroyd kind of fixating on some of these things too. Like there are things Dan Aykroyd clearly cares about. You know, Dan Aykroyd loved the Bone Stripper. You know, Dan Aykroyd loved that the judge had this whole like wall with police badges on it, because real SNL nerds know that Dan Aykroyd collects police badges from around the United States and Canada. And it's no surprise that he throws some of them into the judges like wacky decorations here and there. I mean, it really does feel like a film made for Dan Aykroyd's interests.
And in that way, it's kind of interesting, because it is interesting to see, like, because Dan Aykroyd is a very, as he's an oddball. He's an odd
Yeah.
man. He believes in UFOs. He believes, like
And
he's
crystal skulls. And
yeah. And so this movie, and that, famous early Ghostbusters script, like, kind of are like reflective of, his odd outlook on the world. It's just that, like Ghostbusters, this needed to be, taken from him.
It turned into a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's it. And I mean, he would never direct another film after this. I mean, this thing, I think, was what, like a $40 million budget, because they built an elaborate, like, practical set for this thing. Now, this is CGI, folks. When you're watching this and you think to yourself, that bone stripper has to be CGI. No, they assembled a wooden roller coaster on set. I think it made like 8.5 million back on a $40 million budget, which honestly feels like a triumph, considering what they put on screen. So, I don't know how mad they can be about that.
So, folks, this has been Chevy Chasers. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoy Chevy Chasers, be sure to leave us a rating. That helps people find us and spread the news of all things Chevy. If you'd like to reach out to us, shoot us an email at questquestpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, you can join us next week when we discuss another movie in Chevy Chase's Eve. We're sticking to films, not TV. So those of you who are community fans are going to be disappointed once again, but we'll get there, we promise. And this is a movie with Sigourney Weaver, Gregory Hines, and Chevy Chase, directed by William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist. Deal of the Century, a movie that I'm pretty sure neither William Friedkin nor Chevy Chase like to talk about at all. We'll see you then.